What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports. And today is another NASCAR preview and prediction episode. Sorry about last week. I was not supposed to miss it. I actually had the episode recorded and ready to go. And for some reason, there was an issue getting it uploaded and everything. I don't know what happened. And then the race came, and it's like, well, I don't need to preview a race that's already here. So that's just forever going to be known as the first Lost podcast episode. And I hope everybody is okay with that. Um, not a whole bunch to cover from Sonoma anyway. SVG won. Toyota still looked really fast. Briscoe almost was the first guy to beat SVG on pure speed. Okay, moving on. That was really most of the race. Let's get into Chicagoland and some of the storylines, or leaving Chicagoland, going to Atlanta for some of these storylines. Chase Briscoe, after a new career high 3 wins last season, gets his first race win of this season. Is he about to do what he did last year and go and get hot in the summer and have it last through the rest of the year? Who knows? But he won his first race of the season. He's showing up with much more consistent speed and finishing better. Was he the fastest car on Sunday? Maybe not, but the fastest car doesn't always win. They did a good job on strategy getting them there. Best Toyota race of all time. Like, I think 7 Toyotas were in the top 10. I don't know if that's ever been done before. If Reddick doesn't have issues, he showed some speed at different parts of the day. Like, there could have been even more Toyotas up there, but Toyota, their domination continues. This year, it's all about Toyota. They have 5 race wins with Reddick and 4 with Hamlin, 1 with Gibbs, 1 with Briscoe. That's 11 race wins. That's well over half the series. And they have the most top 5s and the most top 10s. Toyota's average finish, especially JGR, has been incredible. Corey Heim, another one for Toyotas at the San Diego race. So Toyotas have been incredibly strong this year. It's not the first time this happens. It's just usually Chevy that does it. Nobody cares when it's Chevy because, well, let's face it, the teams and fans of Chevy and the organizations that run Chevy are the most popular ones together than any other organization. So it's not a big deal when the most popular organizations are winning. I think what it was, like 2007 or something like that, where Chevy won like 11 or 12 of the first 13 races or something crazy like that. So it's not unheard of in NASCAR, but clearly Toyota has something on the rest of the field. Who can close that gap? Ford, you know that where Ford's going to be strong. I want to see in Richmond and Iowa if Ford will continue to have speed at some of those short tracks. But Chevy's still working through this new body, but William Byron and Kyle Larson both had some speed last week. So maybe Chevy, and in particular Hendrick Motorsports, are starting to catch up with the Yodas, and meaning it could be a very interesting 10-race playoffs. SVG, did he get some payback this week on Austin Hill? If you remember, their beef really goes back to the O'Reilly series last year. Hill put SVG into the wall. Hill had that awful turn at San Diego that took out Zillage and SVG. A lot of people are saying that looks intentional, but he didn't say anything over the radio to suggest it. Is that the new standard? If you don't say anything about it, you're allowed to do it? Because with this, you also have this Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar, and now Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar have kind of been going on at it through social media and podcast a little bit. They have some beef going back to the Truck Series, which, side note, the Truck Series might be better preparing drivers than the O'Reilly Series for the Cup Series. Look at all the guys that never really raced in the O'Reilly Series but were stars in Cup. Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, Corey Heim, outperforming a lot of their teammates and seem to be ready to go better than some of these O'Reilly guys. But Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar have beef leading years back into the Truck Series, and it seems like they still might have some. You saw it boil over in the race. And my question is self-policing back, or is it just the standard that NASCAR has right now where if you talk about it, you're suspended? If you don't talk about it and it's not super obvious, you're okay. Like maybe that's what it is. I don't want to get into the self-policing debate, but it certainly seems like self-policing could be coming back, could be on the swing back for NASCAR. Denny Hamlin, Reddick was way, at one point on multiple occasions this year, really, was over 100 points up over the second place car, which has been Denny Hamlin for most of the season. Denny Hamlin runs Reddick down, and then after difficulties at Sonoma, Hamlin took the lead by single digits, and then this week at Chicagoland, Reddick, maybe not the fastest car, but still had some speed, could have got a top 10, I think. uh, but then had something go through his radiator out of his control and had an even worse points day. So Reddick, after 2 awful back-to-back weeks, and Denny Hamlin gunning him all, it's really 3 consecutive bad weeks. Denny Hamlin has run him all the way down and is now 44 points up on Reddick. Denny Hamlin, maybe new favorite to win the regular season championship and potentially the overall. But Denny Hamlin, man, you're going to see it later. Whew, he's super hot right now. He might have had the fastest car this race if he didn't have to go. If he didn't lose a whole bunch of track position, maybe Denny could have had an even bigger points lead. Was Chicagoland a success? The racing is certainly good, but I heard some discussion from different drivers and different people around the sport. Is the facility up to snuff for a professional sports event? Is the rest of Chicagoland ready to go? I'm not here to make that determination. It was a sellout. How many of those people come back? There was some weather issues. There was some parking issues. But NASCAR tracks are usually in the middle of nowhere, so usually you're going to have some issues with things like that. I don't know. The racing was really good, but it has been for a mile and a half. Or I wouldn't say really good. The racing was better than it has been at other times at Chicagoland, and the restarts are always good there. So let me know in the comments if you think Chicagoland was a success. Definitely a little bit of a parking lot after the race. How much does that affect them coming back? I don't know. Is there even room for 2 Chicago dates? Who knows? And lastly, Connor Zilisch getting wrecked. Completely not his fault at all. Yet again, Connor Zilisch, worst season ever. And a lot of it is just bad luck. I feel like not only is Trackhouse having their worst season ever just on a pure speed, it doesn't seem like they have it. It also feels like it's just Zilisch outside of his team not having speed. He is getting caught up in other people's wrecks like crazy. And to that point about Trackhouse speed, Ross Chastain, it's July and he's not even top 20 on points. And this is the same team that in 2022 he took to the championship 4 race and has been a perennial playoff contender. So Trackhouse really struggling, which is only making Connor Zilisch's bad luck worse. Some big storylines coming out of Chicagoland into Atlanta. Now let's actually look at some recent history at Atlanta. This should say since 2022, but recent history at Atlanta. You see there's been 9 races. This is the first race, or this is the first track that gets its second race of the year. There's only a select few tracks that do get 2 races a year. Atlanta is the first one. This is going to be Atlanta's 10th race in the next-gen era with this new configuration. And let's look at the previous 9 winners. There's quite a few guys who have repeat. William Byron won the first race here. Chase Elliott won the second. Hendrick swept the first season. Then Joey Logano wins in 2023. William Byron wins the second 2023 race. In 2024, Daniel Suarez had that incredible 3-wide super close finish. And then Joey Logano won the playoff race in September. Christopher Bell, as part of his 3 straight wins last year, won this in February of last season. Then Chase Elliott won in June. And then earlier this year, Tyler Reddick, as part of his hot streak to start the season, won Atlanta to start this season, or really the second race. Meaning, out of 9 races, Byron, Elliott, and Logano have all won 2. So that's all but 3 races. The other race, like I said, Daniel Suarez, and then Toyota has won 2 of the last 3 races here after failing to win a race in the first 3 years of this Atlanta format. So maybe Toyota is starting to figure it out. Best average finish, Chase Elliott, the only driver averaging a top 10 with a 9.4. Hocevar just outside of the top 10 with a 10.2. Ryan Blaney, maybe the driver without a win here that deserves it the most. He has an average finish of 10.8. Really only one DNF, real bad finish out of him in 9 races. AJ Allmendinger has an 11.4. That's somebody that's flirting with the playoff cut line. Shout out AJ Allmendinger. This is going to be an important race for him. He's not that far out of the playoffs. And what he's managing to do with Kaulig without any manufacturer support is incredible. And I would say that Kaulig overall has had a lot more speed and definitely more consistent speed than a team like Trackhouse that gets a lot of information from Chevy. So credit to Kaulig Racing. AJ Allmendinger, 4th average finish here. He's definitely going to be looking to continue some continue this upward trend on points to see if he can close down on the cut line, a cut line which nobody really seems like they want to be on the right side of. And then Daniel Suarez, a race winner here at 12.9. That is 4 Chevys and a Ford that have all done really well here. Most top fives, Daniel Suarez, 5 top fives in 9 races, including a win. Ryan Blaney, without a win, 4 top fives in 9 races, and then 3 drivers are tied at 3. Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and Ross Chastain. There's a whole host of drivers at 2 top fives, but when you have a drafting track like this, that's bound to happen. And then in 9 races for top 10s, Ryan Blaney has 7 top 10s in 9 races. Just has been incredible at this new Atlanta configuration. It's crazy how he hasn't won. Yes, he was part of that 3-wide finish with Daniel Suarez where he lost by a couple thousandths of a second. Ryan Blaney, very good here. Daniel Suarez, another driver that's very good here, 6 top 10s. Ross Chastain, 5 top 10s, and then 3 drivers tied at 3 top 10s. Stenhouse, Elliott, Reddick. Well, it should be more than that because you have Bell and Chastain or Christopher Bell is there as well. So it's really 4 tied at 3 because Christopher Bell has 3 top 10s or top 5s. He should have 3 top 10s. So Bell kind of a boom or bust guy, either finishing near the front or not finishing well at all. You see a lot of Chevys on this list, a couple of Fords, one in particular, not a lot of Toyotas. This is the year of Toyota, but this is one of the worst tracks for Toyota on the schedule. Which one of those trends continues should be very interesting. And if you're the rest of the field, you got to feel like you actually have a chance this week because you're not on a mile and a half against the Toyota. Favorites to win Atlanta. I think Hendrick Motorsports is the favorite. Chevy's been very good here. Elliott and Byron have won 4 of the 9 races combined. Hendrick Motorsports has won at least one of the 2 races here every year since it was founded. They're going to have to get a win this week to keep that going. Or not since it was founded, but since it was changed. They're going to need a win this week. There's a couple guys hungry for one, especially William Byron, somebody that's still looking for his first win in the month of July. Hendrick Motorsports, I think, has a strong day. Team Penske usually does well here, especially with Ryan Blaney. But Cindric and Logano are both good drafting drivers. Ford always seems to have good speed at these types of tracks. Penske has had a really, really rough season outside of Blaney. They need a bounce back. They have 2 drivers on the cut line. They need a good week, and I think Penske shows up with speed. Joe Gibbs Racing, I have at number 3. They've just been fast all year. They've won a race here. They finished second here in the winter in February. I guess that's technically a spring race, but it's really a winter race. So I think Joe Gibbs continues to build on that success here. 23XI, Riley Herbst has been getting more consistent, and his best track type is these drafting tracks. Bubba likes these drafting tracks, and Tyler Reddick won the most recent race here, has a race win at Talladega, so Tyler Reddick maybe needs some more respect. Also won Daytona, so I think 23XI shows up with some speed, maybe surprises some people. In this 5th spot, I was torn between Spire and RFK. RFK is part of that Ford program that always does well on these tracks. Brad's a good super speedway racer. Buescher has a Daytona win and seems to be consistent. Priest always seems to flip, but he also seems to have speed. But Spire's part of that Chevy group, and Spire seems pretty good at this track too. McDowell has a super speedway win. Hocevar has a super speedway win and is really good at this Atlanta track. Daniel Suarez has a super speedway win at this track and is also very good at this track. So I'm going to give the edge slightly to Spire, while also saying we need to look out for RFK Racing to have a good day on Sunday as well. Those are my favorites. Let me know in the comments below who your favorites are for this week at Atlanta, or technically what it is now called EchoPark Automotive. Here are your regular season standings, and there is some shuffling. My colors still mean the same thing. The yellow are the 2 drivers that I think are the biggest favorites that have been head and shoulders above everybody this year, Denny Hamlin and Tyler Reddick. As you can see, Denny Hamlin, a 44-point lead over Tyler Reddick. The first time Tyler Reddick hasn't been that close to the lead of the point standings all season. Hamlin at 764, Reddick at 720. Then you get into this orange group, drivers who have had speed, they are consistent, and should be championship contenders as long as they stay in the top 6. Some of the guys trying to run down Denny Hamlin and Tyler Reddick. That's Ryan Blaney, who's very quietly in third without having a typical Ryan Blaney year. Only one race win very early on at Phoenix. He still has 651 points, only 113 back of Denny Hamlin, which is smaller than it has been in recent weeks. Ty Gibbs with one race win. He's 4th in points at 627. Chase Elliott. So Ty Gibbs is 24 back of Blaney in 3rd, and then Gibbs is in 4th. Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson are separated by 1 point, despite Elliott having 2 more wins than Larson. Chase Elliott at 584, Kyle Larson at 583. And Chase Elliott is 43 points back of Ty Gibbs, which means Larson is 44. But so while those 4 aren't necessarily the closest, I would say on points, as it's 68 from 3rd in Blaney to 6th in Larson. I do think that they are all in a similar group where they're just looking to get hot, stay where they are in the points, and they can catch up. Anybody in green is somebody that's doing well on points and is happy where they are, but I don't think that they're true championship contenders. This pink-purple color, and I'm saying both these at the same time because they're kind of all jumbled up right now, but this pink-purple color are guys that have championship speed most weeks. They should be able to run up front and be consistent. And they've shown, most of them have shown that they can be a championship contender and make that Final Four. All of them but Bubba Wallace have. But they need to get in a better spot points-wise, or they're not going to be able to compete based off of many of the simulations that suggest you need to be in the top 6. So the green and purple-pink color are all kind of mangled together, and it starts with Chris Buescher in green at 541, who's 38 back of Larson, or 32, my bad. 42 back of Larson. I can't do the math today. I don't know why. 42 back of Larson is where this group starts, and Larson is in 6th. It starts with Chris Buescher, who I have signified green. He's at 541. Chase Briscoe the last couple weeks has really surged up the standings. He's at 538 points, just 3 back of Buescher. Then we have a small drop-off of 14 to Carson Hocevar at 524. And then Christopher Bell really could have used the win this week. He almost was there. He's still looking for his first win, but he is now up to 10th after a rough month or so. He has 512 points, 12 back of Hocevar. Then you're in Hocevar green. Bell was purple. Suarez goes back to green, and he's at 507, finally outside of the top 10 since winning the Coca-Cola 600. He's at 507, 5 back of Christopher Bell. William Byron could have used the win this week, but he still got lots of points, including 2 stage wins and a top 5. So William Byron, first driver not at 500 points. He's at 499, 8 back of Suarez. And then Bubba Wallace is also in pink purple color. He is the last one of this 7 through 13 group. He is at 584 points, 15 back of Byron. And at a track like Atlanta or EchoPark Automotive, whatever you want to call it, a lot can change when the guys start driving out, and stage points can go to pretty much anybody in the field. So I would expect this week for this group to get even more jumbled up. But the key thing for this group is, can they stay where they are? Can they move up? They can't afford bad finishes and DNFs. And you can see they're all somewhat close together, where a bad week could have you lose 3 spots and a good week could have you gain 2 to 3 spots. So I'm very interested in the 7 to 13 range. All of them should feel like they're relatively safe from the cut line, but none of them feel like they are in a point situation that's good enough to win a championship either. And then the rest of the regular season standings I have in red because it's everybody that I think is going to make up the cut line. There is a little bit of separation between some of these drivers. Thanks to his win at Sonoma, Van Gisbergen is 437 points, which is 30 points good to 17th and 26 points good to 16th, but I still think they're going to come closer together as these ovals go on. but Shane Van Gisbergen is in 14th, and then Cindric and Jones are in 15th and 16th, and that's your current playoff cut line is at Eric Jones. Cindric is at 434, so just 3 points back of Van Gisbergen. And then really where the cut line starts to get close and where I think a lot of these guys will – I think Van Gisbergen, maybe not Cindric, but I definitely think Van Gisbergen will continue to fade towards the cut line. Cindric may be able to put some distance on himself for 14th. But Eric Jones, despite the road course, other than the road courses, is usually pretty good on these ovals, and he's definitely starting to take advantage of some of the Toyota speed. I continue to expect to see Eric Jones' consistency very much so help him out with this group because there hasn't been a lot of consistency in this group. Eric Jones right now in the final transfer spot at 411. That's just 4 points up of Ryan Preece, who could have had a better day than he did last week after that early wreck. Joey Logano was still in 18th in the month of July on points at 395. Been an awful year for him. Still found a way to get a top 15 last week, but still at 18th, where he's tied with AJ Allmendinger at 395. Logano and Allmendinger 16 points back of the cut line. What can they do the final, 5 races now of the season to try and get into the playoffs? And then Brad Keselowski is 3 points back of both of those guys at 392. Can Keselowski make a run to get back into the playoffs? RFK had a good start to the season, but Preece and Keselowski in particular have not been able to withhold that and have fallen all the way out in Keselowski's situation, all the way out of the top 10 in points, all the way to 20th. And Preece was pretty safely in the top 12, and he has fallen out. RFK needs to be good at Atlanta and Daytona in the regular season finale. But all these guys in red, I think, could be pretty close together going into that last race at Daytona. And man, if they are, it's going to be so much fun watching 7 drivers fight for 3 playoff spots at a track like Daytona, where anybody can win and you can go from first to 30th really, really easily. So I kind of hope that's a situation because it's exactly the type of thing that this points format was made to do. Maybe it won't be as interesting for the regular season champ, but it will be for the cut line. And finally, the power rankings, which are starting to shift as well. Denny Hamlin, pretty self-explanatory 1. Tyler Reddick, not as self-explanatory 2. I still have him 2 because of his ginormous points lead on everybody else that isn't Denny Hamlin. But if he continues to have bad luck and have bad finishes, he will drop. But he still is showing speed. It's more of a luck / just mistakes that they can't always help issue. So for now, I'm leaving Reddick at 2. Ryan Blaney is entrenched in number 3. Despite Ford struggling and despite Penske struggling, he's still finding a way to have okay days. Can that continue? Ty Gibbs up to 4 after a good race. That's also where he is in the point standings. Power rankings kind of boring this week because the top 6 are just in the order they're in the regular season standings. So Elliott is at 5. Larson could be higher on this list. He was one of the faster cars at the beginning of the race, has that spin, goes laps down, and then the car was never the same, or he could be in the top 5 easily, and he could have had a much better points day, but Kyle Larson down to 6. Chase Briscoe, after winning that race, up to 7. He finished second last week, finished first this week. He finished second at Atlanta in February. Can he have a 3-race stretch where he really, really gets going? And try to pass Chris Buescher, who is only behind by 3 points in the standings. Chris Buescher had an okay day, not a great day. He was up front for a little bit, but Chris Buescher always seems like he's in like an 8th place car every week, and he's 7th in the standings. So that consistency, as long as he doesn't wreck, seems to be working out. Can the RFK Fords bring their normal drafting track speed this week? And that could help Chris Buescher out. Christopher Bell in 9th, arguably should have won the race, had the speed to do it. If it was maybe 2 laps longer, he probably does. Christopher Bell in a much better point situation, showing consistent speed. He's up to 9. William Byron had a solid points day, won both stages. He's up to 10. Still needs to continue to find high point days, a great opportunity at a track he's won at twice and a race style that he's been very good at. Carson Hocevar falling out of the top 10 to 11th. A little slight by Denny Hamlin at the Spire cars this week. No past setups for the next gen at Chicago, and it's the first mile and a half where Spire hasn't looked fast at all. Is it a coincidence with the court case that's going on? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I think it's at least interesting that Spire looks so uncompetitive. Carson Hocevar, after an interesting day, not a great finish, and is now in danger of getting passed by even more individuals in the point standings. Daniel Suarez continues to drop as well. I have him down in 12th, but going to a track he should be very good at. Bubba Wallace kind of staying in 13th, but I do think in the next couple of weeks, with some of these tracks, he has a chance to potentially break into the top 10. Had that really awful stretch where he went from second in points all the way down to like 15th, but he's starting to recover and try and dig out of that hole. Austin Cindric was up front for a while last week. One of the better races he's had. Going into a race he should be competitive, and he likes in Atlanta. Cindric up to 14th and a chance to start separating himself from the cut line. Shane Van Gisbergen at 15th. Nobody else wanted to have a good day. He certainly didn't have a good day, but he's still in the playoffs on points. He still won a race 2 races ago. And Atlanta has got to be an oval that you think he has a chance to have a good day at, just because of the nature of the type of racing it is. Van Gisbergen at 15. Eric Jones coming off of those road courses. Now we're settling in the ovals where he will have an advantage over somebody like SVG. Can Eric Jones continue to race well and get himself into the playoffs? Logano, despite being super slow early on and not having shown a whole lot, found her way to a top 15. So I have him at 17. Priest got caught up in other people's messes. He's in 18. I've already talked about AJ Allmendinger. I kind of think he might be, I think that's an incredibly interesting story to watch with Kaulig, and think it'd be really cool if he finds a way into the playoffs. But he has lots of ground to make up. But for now, he's 19th, had an okay day at Chicagoland, had 2 straight road courses where he performed pretty well and got some points. What can he do from here on out? And then Brad Keselowski, I have at number 20. That's where he is on the points. He was just fine at Chicagoland. Probably could have taken more advantage being a track that he knows, and some other people have never raced there before, but didn't take advantage of that. And now they're going to a track where he's going to have to hope Ford and RFK brings their usual drafting and super speedway style racing. Bring their strength shows. That's all I have for you guys this week. Atlanta, EchoPark Automotive Speedway, whatever you know it as, always brings an interesting race. You're going to see a lot of close racing. You're going to see a lot of runs. You're going to see a lot of probably handling issues, and it leads to lots of passing and lots of close racing and lots of wrecks. Who can survive the carnage this week? Make sure you tune in. Please like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Make sure you find a couch and watch some sports this week. Plenty of stuff on last stretch before the All-Star break, where you guys will be getting a baseball episode. I decided instead of doing a June update and then an All-Star update to just combine it into an All-Star update. Make sure you find a couch, watch some sports. Take care of yourself, take care of your family. It's a crazy world. Peace out.